super example, actually. Tanisha, over to you.
With pleasure, Vikas. Thanks.
The dance class.
Dance class.
So,
all right.
Professor, are you ready for your next segment then?
You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to pass it on, right?
To whom? There's just you and me. Unless you're bringing somebody, a third person or a being in.
Okay, so let me try to bring in a third person. Let's see if this third person who's at my feet now will behave.
Lovely. Okay.
So, are you going to say something like that? Do I just do a demo?
You can tell us what is happening and then do what you need to.
Okay. I think that the most handsome member of the house is a dog, and since you've asked us to show and share something that we value and people may not know, here you go. So this is Russo, and let us see if he's well behaved. Oh no, he wants to be a part of the video. Here you go. Come here, 1 second. Yeah. Okay, so that's Russo there.
Hi, Russo.
Tanisha, you wanted some Instagram tips, right? Oh no, he's not going to. Russo, wait. And let's see if Russo can do a handshake. There you go. And next, there you go. So here is the the biggest Instagram handles. I understand some of them are all about dogs. So Tanisha, my only tip is
very cool.
And you all the traction you need, you're going to get. So here
very cool.
You may not let the rest of this interview go forward, but you've got your demo.
It's totally worth it. I would have loved to sort of interact a little bit with Russo, but I know that would excite him, so I don't want to do that.
Yeah, but yeah, I think if he hears you talking to him, you're.
Hi, Russo. Hi, Russo. Russo. Hi, Russo.
He's listening very keenly. I think it might be the end of my computer if he jumps. Yeah, so that's my demo section.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So,
I thought I would give it to Vikas, but anyway.
How long have you had Russo?
He's 5.
He's 5.
Yeah.
And when did you make the decision to bring a pet home? Or you've always had pets?
I've always had pets. So
you always have. Oh, you grew up with pets?
Grew up with pets, and so that was not much of a decision. But let me say that as I'm sure, I don't know, are you a pet owner, pet lover? All pets are special and distinctive in many ways, right? So
the only pets I have are the involuntary lizards that come into my kitchen. Okay. And I don't know what to do about them. So I've decided to call them my pets.
Then maybe I am saying something new in that sense, but he's quite a remarkable. I've had a lot of pet dogs, but not a golden retriever. And what I'm discovering is how attached and how eager to please golden retrievers can be.
They're family dogs, aren't they? So they've got all the right traits going.
Yeah, that's right. And actually, I didn't know that demo would work, but he was here and ready for it.
He's ensured that he's kept the master happy. He's getting dinner tonight.
And he's ensured that I've survived the demo round. Yeah.
Well done, Russo. Well done, Professor. Okay, so moving on to our next round, which is round 3 and the last one in this chat, unfortunately. It's called the interrogation.
Yes.
It's a way of luring lawyers, really, to chat with us some more, okay? Now, the only rule for this round is that you have to be really quick. You have to be really witty, which I can already see that you have enough wit and more, the Rhodes Scholarship and all, with all of that going for you. So yeah. I'm not questioning that, okay? And you just have to be really impulsive, okay? That's the rule of this game.
Okay, I'll try.
Why?
I'm not him and haw in between, but yeah. Yeah.
That's okay. That's okay. You can have you're allowed a couple of seconds here and there.
And some passes and ask a friend. Huh?
No. Those, I'm so sorry. Those have not been woven into this format. We'll take your suggestion for the next season. Okay. But today you're stuck.
Go.
Okay. So, are you ready?
Let's start.
Let's start. Okay.
Never
So, your
ready.
first question then. What is the most difficult or awkward question you've been asked in an open classroom, and how did you respond?
Oh, I suppose the most awkward question and in my early years of teaching
Mhm.
about why I was wearing a red kurta by and further conversations about what I was wearing by my female students who and I must say I didn't have a ready answer.
So this was in classroom. One of the students started talking about this openly
Yes,
and asked you the question.
yes.
Oh wow! And how did you respond?
I don't know. I think I might have responded quite as badly as I might to some of the questions that follow. I might have, I don't know, some quiet deflection of some sort.
Wow, this is interesting. And what a gutsy student.
Oh, there are no shortage of that.
I can imagine. Okay, the next question then. So you're probably one of the first few alumni of NLS who've gone back to sort of teach, and not just teach, but now you're also the vice chancellor at your own alma mater. So is this like, does it feel a little bit like an opportunity to parent your parents?
I can say, Tanisha, that you're asking this question only because you have no idea what NLS is like.
No, I went to GLC, Government College here in Bombay. 2,000 rupees per year we used to pay annually. So I definitely have no idea.
No, because it's such a hidebound place. You know, one of the things that, and let me, since you said impulsive quick answers, I say so many sirs, you know, I only say yes, sir, no, sir, and so on, that people at home ask me, who exactly are you talking to? And when I say, oh, I'm just talking to a colleague of mine, so you're always saying sir, sir to everyone. So I think my rule is just say sir to everyone. I'm not parenting any parents.
But this is interesting because I've seen in the teaching profession at large, because I briefly taught as a guest lecturer as well, all the peers are also calling each other sir and ma'am, right?
I think it's safe.
It's
Because you don't know who will be prickly about it.
Correct.
Me as well, right?
Okay.
Yeah, interestingly, outside, many people are on first name basis, but I wouldn't try that here. So no parenting the parents.
No parenting. Oh, what a disappointment.
Not
Okay. So now this one is again, I know that you've authored a lot of books, right? And one of them, the Oxford University Press chose to publish. How did you convince them?
So I suppose, just these are all dour, boring stories. I guess one sends. Let me share the important thing. I had such a wonderful editor because you know that university presses are getting loads of proposals, right? And what convinced me was that my editor, when I first spoke to her, had already read what I had to say and had a view on it. And at that point, I knew that if this works, this is a super option, right? If they accept it, it's a super option. So the convincing part, I don't know. Maybe I didn't have to. I had to send in my proposals and the forms, and I was just blessed that I had a great editor, and so she did much of the rest.
I'm so disappointed to hear that you didn't use any Indian jugaad. Means what did the Indian system teach you after all, Professor?
No, I suppose that I'll have to come up with those tricks for the remaining ones.
Fair. Okay, your next question then. If you could call 15-year-old Sudhir Krishnaswamy for a quick, 10-15 minute chat, what would you say to yourself today?
Well, at the age of 15, I was obsessed about playing cricket.
Okay.
And I was doing that maybe 4 to 5 waking hours of the day. And we kind of played it in this repetitive, now I feel reflectively boring way. So the 15-minute chat that I would have with boring Sudhir would be, just don't dull yourself to death with this. Just lay off and break these things up. And I suppose in school, 15, since you asked about 15, I also, and I'm sorry, you asked me impulsively, so I'm telling you impulsively. That was the time. So I graduated at the time when the whole Babri and the Mandal, all of that was burning over, right? So roughly around that time, I don't know, about 15 or 16. And I would say that my 15-minute call would be more reflective about what's going on around you. Because I would imagine that at that point, I was quite taken up by the lead news magazines of the day and editorials of the day. And I've learned to be more reflective about it. So, yeah.
That's what you'd say. Super. Okay. Your next question then. One thing law students have that other disciplines don't.
I think the ability to think in very structured ways about just about anything. And so let me put it like this. I'd say it's structured thought as a habit. Even if it's pedantic, and you say that any question you ask me, I will do a first, second, and a third. Just saying as a student.
Please.
So law students have that. And sometimes when you see people who are otherwise very well read and go to good colleges, they're not pressured to think and present material in this way. So law students, a good law student always has that. Just a habit of thought.
I would imagine you will say they have Professor Sudhir Krishnaswamy. It would have been that simple.
Yeah.
This is the problem with humility. You get a chance for self-promotion, you take it. You'll learn this on the content oversight board, I'm telling you.
And with the IG influencers. Yeah.
Correct. Okay, your next question then. If there is one thing in the world that you're willing to trade your PhD for, what would it be?
Such labor, what would it for? I would I trade it for anything? I don't know. Tough question. My answer is nothing.
Nothing.
I feel like, because nothing. Because I feel like that is an intense, hard experience. And it's also wrapped up in all the other things going on in your life at the time. I can't think of what I would trade it for. I could give you a Mother Teresa line and say world peace or something, but I don't think it trades like that.
It's okay, you worked hard for the PhD, you keep it, please. Okay, your next question then. What is the naughtiest thing you did as a student?
Lost your voice a little bit.
Sorry, can you hear me now? Is it better?
Can hear you now.
Okay, so I was asking, what is the naughtiest thing you've done as a student?
Sorry, I lost you, Tanisha. Maybe because it's an intentional. I don't know what your question was. Maybe it's the question I should pass.
No, this is one question I definitely want you to answer. Can you hear me now?
I can.
What is the naughtiest thing you've done as a student and not in school, at NLS, when you were a student at NLS?
Oh, you're asking all these sober student types these kinds of questions. I mean, I can. I mean, the one thing that we did a lot of in law school was that we didn't, these are small classes, but we spent a lot of time passing chits, and I guess we developed an expertise in writing chits in a coordinated way, where a chit would reach two people in the opposite ends of the classroom, and they would be from each other, and they would be very, very, very forward and suggestive messages, and we would wait till the chits reach their destinations, and just to record at least the visual sight of the reaction of the person when they saw the chit and how they looked at each other. So I suppose a good bit of class time was spent crafting these chits and then timing them right, because they have to reach each person at the same time.
Oh my God! Wow. So did you also indulge in chit writing? You did.
A reasonable bit. I had far more creative and clever classmates. So my role was more often than not an accomplice.
Okay. Okay. I'm very tempted to ask you about the content of those chits, but it'll become very inappropriate very quickly. So we'll avoid that. Okay. We'll have that chat separately. So moving on to your next question then. What is the best gift or compliment that you've ever been given or paid on Teachers' Day? Like a gift that you've been given or a compliment you've been paid?
I guess, I mean, more. I can't think of a best. Okay,
Sure.
so let me just say that. Let me just say two things, and this would be interesting. So I think the idea that students do write notes of gratitude or personal notes has been happening for some period of time. What I've noticed quite strikingly in the last 2-3 years is this idea that students should fall at teachers' feet. I'm struck by that, and I can tell you, I have no idea what to do, except that, I mean, it's not a practice that I grew up with, but I know that it's as a mark of respect, and I'm like totally confused. And this I find to be more common now. That's strange, right? It's more common now than it was 10 years ago.
Yeah, you know why, right? Because their hard work has reduced, so they feel like blessings will compensate. That's why you have so many more falling at your feet.
Maybe. And yeah, maybe it works. I don't know.
I'm sure it works, but it is actually quite intriguing. Okay, your next question then. What is the worst lesson you've ever taught, and what did you learn from it?
I can think back. I mean, many classes don't work for many reasons. But I can think of a class that I was teaching when I was teaching in Calcutta at the National Law University in Calcutta, where I was teaching a very small seminar course with very few people, like 5 or 7 students in the class.
Okay.
And I had an incredibly busy day, and I had not managed to get on top of what I needed to read, and nor had my students.
Okay.
And what followed, I mean, there were only 5 people, so it's not like there's anywhere to look and hide, was the most embarrassing, and I was like, and I must tell you that, and sorry to be emotional about it, I was almost in tears, because I said, like, what am I doing here? If I come to a classroom for whatever reason, and I have not been able to read my materials ahead of time, forget about it, my students may or may not do it. This is a disaster. It's almost like, what on earth am I doing? That is like crisis. Right? So that would be the absolute worst class. Yeah. What would I do about it? And interesting, right? You asked. It's a great question, because what I absolutely decided is that no matter what is burning in an institutional sense in a university, the class comes first. I will just give up anything. Even if there's an emergency, I will make that wait, because I have to prepare for class. Because that is kind of like fundamental duty, and the awful feeling of being in that kind of environment is scarring enough to never want to repeat it.
I'm sure it sounds also fairly embarrassing, so I fully hear you. So preparedness really is the lesson you learned from that lesson.
And prioritize this.
Prioritize.
Put everything else away.
Correct.
There are always urgent things in the world, and they can wait.
Understood. Thank you. Okay, your next question then. If you had to prove that you're a human being and not AI in a 5-minute text conversation, how would you do it? What would you say?
These AI bots are so good that I don't know that one can beat them at that. Half the time, I don't know when I'm doing these chats whether I'm The only thing, what could an AI bot not do? I suppose an AI bot would not make some totally random but intelligent connections, right? So I'll give you an example. And there's a new Pentatonics. Pentatonics is this fantastic a cappella band in the US, and they had this new album out, a new song out called At Home. And this song At Home has them singing small snippets of various songs which are about the home, the house, and connected together. And these are complete tangential connections. I don't think AI can do that at all. So if I were talking to you and I had to convince you that AI, I would make some utterly random, intelligent connections, so that would convince you that
you're not AI. Noted. Or you could emote, because I don't think AI can emote, right? So that's another thing.
No. Now even the psychology counseling apps are AI driven.
Wow.
They're even better at this. They don't get tired.
That's true. Okay, that is actually a little scary. While it's encouraging, it's also a little bit scary, what you've just shared. Okay, your next question then. Who was your biggest mentor in the world of academia?
Let me name two. My supervisor at Oxford was Paul Craig, and I think I learned, but I've not fully emulated, just the fantastic work ethic and the integrity to work that I saw there. In India, I would say it's Professor N.P. Singh, who's a very senior Delhi law faculty faculty member. And what I learned from him is really how to be patient. How to be patient in institutional spaces where everything is not one-way traffic. You're never moving in some linear way. In a meandering sort of way, you kind of get there. And I've seen him do that with a calm and a poise that I wish I could cultivate and have.
Understood. Okay, thank you. Your next question then, how do you inspire your students? How do you try to inspire them?
So in our time, if you ever set out to inspire them, they would pull you down a notch or two within the first 30 seconds. I don't think. I mean, we live in a world which is which doesn't have too much time and space for I don't know inspiration, if that means talking or I suppose my only comeback would be that you can only inspire by example. If people can see that you show up every day and that you're always prepared and that you always can keep some calm and poise and engage with equanimity, and I suppose that and that you are not easily taken up by trivial small things, I suppose that adds up and inspires. I think more than that, I would not even try, because I think our students already think we hector too much.
Okay.
They want to beat us with a club or something.
Okay, understood. Okay, what is your most embarrassing fashion trend that you used to rock back in the day?
I was anything but fashionable. But if you must ask, I can tell you that there was a phase in my 5th year of law school where I suppose we used to wear tie-dyed T-shirts 40 years or 30 years after the 60s, and I don't know what they were, some kind of pajama with floaters almost every day, including in class, out of class. That was like daily attire. So we survived that.
Okay, super. Your next question then, can you cook? And if you can, what do you make well?
I can cook to survive. I can only make basic stuff. Well, I don't know. No one in my family will vouch for that. But I think there must be a baseline test. The baseline test is, can you eat what you cook? And that's my answer is yes.
That's a good one.
All the basic stuff like dals and sabzis, small stuff I can.
Okay.
I can't make rotis and all that, but yeah, substitutes.
Followed. Okay, super. What is the most out of character thing you've ever done?
I mean, I think out of character for now and current role and space, when I was, you said 15, so 15 to 18, 19, 20. Yeah, 15 to 20. I used to DJ, and I mean,
You used to? Sorry?
I used to spin records.
Okay. Oh, DJ.
DJ.
Wow.
So, so if, early retirement beckons, then hopefully there's a career out there. So,
if I'm throwing a party, I know whom to call in case you look at any early retirement options.
Gladly. Okay. I enjoy music, and so I'll put my hand up.
Okay. And what kind of music was this that you were DJing?
DJing primarily dance music.
Dance music.
That's why out of character you asked, right?
See, this is why for the demo round I insisted that you dance, but you somehow just very conveniently got Russo into the room and fully used the distraction technique. Well done, Professor. Well done.
Give you the better demo, I can assure you.
Okay, your next question then. What is the silliest thing you have an emotional attachment with? Like, think.
Silliest thing? I don't know. I mean, I can't think of anything. So hard question to answer. I mean, I don't have any. If you mean, I don't know if you're freezing up a little bit, but I'll just continue. So I don't have a fix on particular things. Maybe I'd say the silliest thing would be. I try to have very strong emotional fix on habits that I do, right? Like, I mean, what I would do in the morning and routines and so on. If you take a step back and look at it, that's silly beyond the extreme, right? Maybe it goes back to like when you play sport, you have all these superstitions about which glove you wear first and something like that. It's almost like, and I can be quite patterned in that way and emotional to the extent that my senses of a good day and a bad day may turn on that. Yeah.
Depend on that. So tell us one such habit that you have, say, when you start your day or something. The day? Any point of the day.
So I have all kinds of things. I start with with morning round of. You don't need to know all this, but anyway.
we do. This is why it's called Unsuited.
Of lots of water and lime, and then start off with a tea routine and have my meditation routine and all of this. And and life is not so kind, right? Because it keeps getting disrupted by small and big things. And then much else of the day will turn on how that routine went, at least in an emotional sense. I don't mean in a functional way. Obviously, life goes on. Nobody cares. But emotionally, these are all fixes in some ways.
Wow. Okay. So you also played a lot of sport, right? Can you tell us a little bit about what did you play at Oxford?
So I played a fair bit of cricket. Mm-hmm. I also played some soccer, football, as it's known here and in the UK. And I played hockey. So all three field sports.
Wow.
And kept myself busy through my time.
Super. Okay. Your next question then. Have you ever failed the staircase test at university? And tell us what the staircase test is to begin with.
So I was, so when I first went up to Pembroke College, I was put in a very old and majestic shared house. Okay. And there were 6 people in the house. And what was striking about it was a 13th century house was that the staircases were completely uneven and jagged and no 2 steps were equal. Mm-hmm. And then we discovered that, and it was it's narrow, thin house. So people 4 floors up. And so depending on where you lived and depending on how late your night was and what you had imbibed and how much you had imbibed, people were found on various, they'd given up basically trying to navigate the staircase after slipping. a scare or two. So when you woke up in the morning, you would, at least on weekends, you would have to go down and see who was where, and you have to
Find them.
find them and hope that you were not there yourself. Yeah.
So were you ever found by your flatmates on the street?
I had no ability to match an Aussie, ability to glug beer or whatever else. So, luckily, or whatever. Unluckily for me,
Right.
I made my way to my room.
Okay. Super. Your next question then. What is something you think you can do better than anyone else?
No, nothing comes to mind. I feel like no, nothing. I can't think of anything that I would say that I would do better than anyone else.
That's
Maybe
fine.
my demonstration deflection trick was good, but I'm sure there are people, magicians do deflection tricks all the time, and I was nowhere there. Yeah.
This was a test question. We now know you're a very humble man. All the students at NLS who are either listening in now or will watch later, they'll be like, he truly sets an example. We must also be humble. So well done, well done. Okay, your next question then. How much was your first paycheck and how did you spend it? How much did you make?
Boring. I don't have a flash answer. So the answer is 4,500 Indian rupees.
Okay.
And how did we spend it? This I have an interesting answer. So at the time, a few of us were setting up an organization called the Alternative Law Forum. And the initial funding for the organization was really our salaries. So all we did was we pooled our salaries, and there were 2-3 of us who did that, and that's how the early months. I was lucky in that I lived at home and I was in Bangalore, so that was all right. So I'm pretty sure that my early salaries were all in the Alternative Law Forum pool. Yeah.
Oh wow, how wonderful! Your next question then. What do you think is the greatest challenge that students are facing today? In one word, just in one word.
Resilience. Right.
Resilience.
Because we are in such uncertain times with the pandemic that we have two responses. I just give up, and emotionally we just give up and we say we can't do this, or you just figure out through some micro gritty way to just get on with it. Not that it's brilliant. You can't undo all the stuff that's going on in the world. So resilience is the key. There's one thing I would ask, I would say that's what we need.
Understood. That's lovely. Your next question then. What is the most empowering thing about being an educator? Again, in one word.
Personal transformations. Sorry, 2 words.
That's okay. That's
because that is the key. It's not. So often the educational environment just focuses on all inane things like what grades people get, and who gets gold medals. I'll just share something that there was a whole list of gold medals and Rhodes Scholar Prize winners that were put up as you entered NLS. And one of the first things I did was I had all that removed and moved to the library. Because I said that what you don't need to send people the signal that ultimately these features, gold medals or prizes, are the really, for a bulk of people coming to a educational environment, it's personal transformation. That's what we need to make happen, right? And from wherever you come from and beyond. That's what it's about.
Super. And your last question then, and I'm going to let you go thereafter. Who would you suggest as our next guest on Unsuited, now that you've been through the journey?
Okay. And what you want? Educator, or you want
anybody you think you would like to see go through this process and just hear from them? So just really anybody.
Okay, so let me recommend someone. I would recommend that you call someone from the Delhi Law faculty who has been till recently a vice chancellor at the Tamil Nadu Law School.
Okay.
Her name is Professor Kamala Shankaran.
Okay.
And I think that she has a worldview and a perspective that would be fantastic for your listeners.
Lovely. Okay. Thank you for recommending her name. And we will definitely get in touch with her. So thank you for that. Do we have some time, a couple of moments for some questions? Are you open to that?
Yes, sir, please.
So one of the questions was, how did you decide to come up with the Center for Law and Policy Research? What was your objective when you started?
So the Center for Law and Policy Research was, we set it up in 2009. And at that point in time, I think that all across India, many of the early initiatives around legal interventions and legal aid and public interest lawyering were under pressure. They were either collapsing or they were under serious threat of closing. So we knew that we had benefited greatly from engaging with these initiatives. And we thought it was crucially important that things like this are built and sustained. We also were keen, just as a sort of founding ethos, to ensure that the quality of work was very high and professionally, oriented. That we should not ignore the legal profession. I mean, there's a tendency in some civil society work to be excessively focused on civil society advocacy and activism, and not on the legal profession. And we were very clear that let's really engage the legal profession and let's engage the courts. These are very valuable fora, and we must build institutions that do this.
Got it. Your next question is, what is your view on local reservations in the NLUs?
So I think that the NLUs, each of the NLUs have been designed in very different ways. Some of them have been funded and established by state governments. Mm-hmm. Others have been relatively autonomous and have emerged on their own. And when we look at national institutions across India, and I'll just move away from NLUs for a moment. Let's look at the National Institutes of Technology, the IITs. There is a great value in emphasizing and sustaining their national character.
Right.
Having local reservations of small numbers is not antithetical to them retaining their national character. But we must be careful about the numbers. It can't be that there is creeping reservation, and then we know that what happens when institutions go through this, they become effectively local law colleges. Right? So there's a nice, an important tightrope walk, and we are currently doing it as an institution. So yes, we need to accommodate local interests while ensuring that these institutions remain national in character.
Follow. Thank you. Your next question then is, do you feel teaching as a career becomes smooth and more connected if you have a work experience than directly entering the teaching profession after college?
I would highly recommend, and if you look at undoubtedly the best legal education system in the world is in the United States. And in the US, if you look at the profiles of even young scholars, young professors, all of them would have worked for between 2 and 5 years.
Okay.
And I think because we are a professional education college or a university, having that kind of professional exposure is very useful.
Understood.
So I've had it tangentially, personally, I'm saying, not directly, but I would encourage all young people to spend a couple of years in the
doing that. Okay. And your last question from the audience, someone's asking, for someone who will start teaching in the next few years, what must be the direction of thought that one must strive to inculcate in their students? Secondly, how can we tailor ourselves better to guide different students with different ambitions?
Yeah, I mean, the one thing that I suppose all of us as teachers should bring to the engagement with students is that we don't know better than them as to what their careers and lives should be. And I think that sense of engaged distance, which is that I don't know what's necessarily the best for you, but I can share what I know. But to make up your decisions. So I feel that all of us must bring that kind of engagement. I mean, we care about your decision making, but it's not like we know what's good for you and where your career should go. We don't know, right? All our careers tend to be quite jagged. People go off and work for a few years, and then they decide to do something else.
Correct.
And we shouldn't foreclose all these options in the way we engage students.
Super. Thank you. Thank you for chatting with us. Thank you for being on Unsuited. It's been an honor, really. And especially on a day like today, to be with you. It's been wonderful. So thank you.
Tanisha, I'll just butt in because Rajiv has a question to ask.
Sure.
Okay, Rajiv Luthra.
Sorry, I missed that.
So Rajiv Luthra has a question to ask. He wants to do it in person. So
Oh,
we
please.
can allow, yeah, he's watching. So let's allow him to take the question here. Over here.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, Prof. Scintillating, except that you kept sidestepping everything. I've also been this. Now I've learned something new. Thank you. Prof, my questions really quickly. You know, I'm finding a big challenge in looking at how legislation is being enacted in most democracies in the world. So, like, for example, no thought is being put on, say, driverless cars. If a driverless car, which is a reality almost, kills somebody, who do you sue? The guy who made the car, the guy who owned the car, the guy who wrote the software? No thought. Similarly, you have these gadgets for people who have severe case of diabetes. You tie that gadget, just two examples, you tie that gadget on your waist, and then through Wi-Fi, your doctor could be anywhere in the world, gets to know your parameters, that instructs the gadget to give you X mg of insulin. If I hack into that app and I give it 5,000 mg, for example, of insulin, and the person dies, that's a perfect murder. No thought of jurisprudence on this, nothing. Have you any thoughts on that, sir?
So, great questions. And these are things that we are, I don't know about legislation, but these are very important areas of research and thinking. And we've already started doing that. So let me just share with you the kernel of an idea of what we're trying to create at the National Law School. And if you have these interests, please engage with us. We're trying to create a very focused center that does careful research in these emerging areas of law and technology. The Internet of Things broadly is what you're describing with respect to cars and automated driving. And with respect to medical technology and kind of self-administering medical technology and the various ways in which these softwares can be hacked into. They're all complicated questions built around a new and emerging technology architecture where law has some way to catch up with. And for the most part, the way we think about it is that we think about extending existing areas of law and regulation to these new problems. But sometimes we might need to reframe the existing modes of regulation entirely. It's not clear from the examples that you take what your preference might be. But these are very important areas and areas that I'll give you another example. Additive manufacturing, 3D printing and areas like that. They completely transform what one might take to be manufacturing. The future is that small workshops, you might go into a car workshop and they can make entire parts for you custom made. Right? So it will change the way we think of the oldest large factory kind of setting in manufacturing. These are all important and great questions and questions that we are deeply committed to. So we are in the early stages of setting up an institutional initiative around these technologies. So please let us know your thoughts and ideas on this.
No, happy to. That's excellent. Now, last point, Prof, you mentioned about making students law firm ready. As you know, my firm normally gets about 40 to 50 students every year.
Yes.
And there's a lot of retraining we have to do, let me tell you that too. But some basic fundamental things which I don't see law colleges, including the better ones, like the school that you belong to, teach things like emotional intelligence, things like stress management. You know, this is a reality. Once you come out of law school, this is something you're suddenly faced with and you don't know what to do with it. So maybe we could think of some curricula which could help students hit the road running, as it were.
So, very important question. As you know, even within the law university framework, the issues around mental health are boiling over. And we've made, as of the 1st of July, a very big new intervention in this field, talking about wellness in some of the ways that you just mentioned, which is to not treat mental health as a question of therapy or counseling, but a question of how you prepare yourself to deal with stressful environments, including the educational environment, and then at a later stage, far more in the professional environment. So this is something that we are very keen to do. But coming back to your question of preparing them to be law firm ready, I am, from the day I took charge, I was very keen to engage with the various law firms, partners like you, sir, who recruit from our university to have conversations like these. I mean, it just happens to be that Tanisha and Vikas have put this together and you're asking me these questions. So I will offline reach out to you directly, because I think that we need to learn what is happening with our graduates and prepare them better in the ways that you suggest, not just intellectually, but in all these other ways.
No, I'll be more than happy to help, and thank you very much. That was very, very useful.
Thank you.
God bless you and stay safe. Both you and Russo.
Sure.
Thank you, Mr. Luthra. Always a pleasure having you in any form on any of our chats. Thank you for always listening in. Back to you, Professor. Thank you so much for being here this evening. Like I said earlier, it's been a pleasure and an honor both. I really, really hope we get a chance to connect with you offline and, have more interesting, meaningful conversations. But for today, thank you for being honest, open, and just, a lot of fun.
Thank you. Thank you, Tanisha. Thank you, Vikas. Russo's been very well behaved so far, but losing it. So time to go and
Please,
do my
have a lovely evening. Thanks. Bye.
Thanks, Sudhir.
Thanks.
Bye. Thank you.
See you.
Bye.